Hola peeps, hi students. This is Dr. Maya. This is Thursday, July the 9th, and it's about 1 o'clock-ish EST. I am making this video in response to a request that came from a student who wanted to have some information about cover letters via a video from me. So thank you, student. Thank you, Jenny. Um, I'm going to start with, I have my lipstick on and my glasses on, so this is serious business of career success. So we're going to talk about cover letters today. I am going to talk about cover letters in 3 parts. Notes are right here. First, I'm going to talk about the structure. Second, I'm going to talk about ATS compliance. And thirdly, I'm going to talk about the philosophy of why it's important to feel strong about your cover letters, to feel empowered about writing the best cover letters, the most kick-ass cover letters you can for every single role that you apply to. So structurally, the pretty standard version of cover letters is 3 sections. The first section starts with, I'm delighted to be applying for this role of, always make sure you have the right role with the right spelling. I found the job on X website or was referred to it by Y or Z. And I do push students to think about mentioning a couple of very specific skills in that first section. It's a very short section, but I find it useful as a reader to see that the candidate has put in an effort to say, my particular skills in X and Y are going to make me a really good fit for this role. Because that shows that the candidate has really thought about what the role is, what the skills are that are required, and put that together. The second section is your persuasion section. So I think of cover letters, resumes, and job description as the triangle of successful candidacy presentation. The job description is the base. When you are applying to a role, it's vital to know the job description inside out, both to make your cover letter and resume kick-ass, and to make sure they're both ATS compliant. ATS is automatic tracking system. So that persuasive section is where you get to tell a story. So cover letters and resumes can be then thought about as 2 sides of the same coin. The resume is the more functional representation of your skills and why you are a good fit for the role. And your cover letter is the more narrative version of the same, which means we have to be very strategic about which pieces of the story from your resume you are putting in the cover letter. So the cover letter second section is about persuasion. If I'm reading a well-written cover letter, I am going to be convinced that the candidate has thought through specifics of why she is one of the best candidates for the role. The third section is, again, pretty standard. I look forward to speaking with the hiring committee to discuss my fit further in detail. My email is X and my phone number is Y. Here's my availability. Looking forward to speaking with you soon. Thank you for your time. First name, last name. So that's the structure. The first paragraph is a short, kind of standardized as well as personalized piece. The second one is your persuasive piece. The third one is welcoming piece that I want to speak more about this. The persuasive piece is the one that requires the most work, and it is also the place where you can customize your cover letter. Thinking about what are the specific requirements of the role, the top 2 or 3, and what in your past skills and work experience are you going to bring to the table so that you can do that role well? It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. But a well-written cover letter can create tremendous confidence in the candidate for herself, for themselves. So that's the structure. Again, there's this amazing thing called, online search, Google, Yahoo, YouTube. When you are creating a cover letter for a specific role, the first thing you want to do is go and read 2 or 3 or 4 cover letters for that role to see how different people are telling their story. And then you create your own story in your voice, which is both authentic and professional. The second part is ATS compliance, which has become a significant part of career success access in recent years. So it's automatic tracking system. It's an algorithm that tracks documents to make sure that a significant amount of the language that was in the job description is present in the resume and the cover letter. So the strategy with that is you really want to know the job description. Just because you are applying for the same role in different places does not mean that your resume and cover letter are going to be ATS compliant, because they have to speak specifically to the items in the job description. So again, it requires mindfulness, it requires focus, patience, practice, redrafting. But again, once you learn how to play that game of having a solid sense of the base, which is the job description, the resume, and the cover letter, that then makes you steady in your application confidence, right? So if the base is steady and the 2 sides are also steady, then you know that when you start chatting about why you should be hired, you are drawing from knowledge that you have already created and imbibed. The third piece is the philosophy of kick-ass cover letters, which is very similar to my philosophy of kick-ass resumes and pretty much kick-ass anything. One, it's your brand. So whatever you're putting out there represents you. Every piece of writing you put out there, every piece of video, in the professional sense at least, what you produce is a representation of who you are as a professional. So your cover letter, when it's well done, says a lot about you as the professional, that you pay attention to details, that you take time to read job descriptions and examples, that you take time to craft your response, that you take this job of representing yourself as a candidate seriously. So it doesn't have to be boring. That's not the point here. It does have to be you. So if you are a person who enjoys language and vibrancy in language, then that is something that would want to be present in the letter and still be professional. If you are of a more serious bent, then that voice is what needs to be present in the letter while not being, stuffy. So it's really about authenticity as a professional. So cover letters is one of the many ways you can start and keep practicing your brand and how to find your professional voice. It's just a sheet of paper, but it's not. Nothing is ever just something, right? The other part, and this is a much more rabble-rousing kind of social justice-y part of me, is why kick-ass cover letters? Because it's a way to make sure that you really are presenting yourself with strength. Because cover letters and resumes are gatekeepers, right? They're one of many hoops that we all have to go through to present our expertise and competencies. and be the most viable candidate, be the most desirable candidate. So this isn't meant to be easy. Becoming that viable, desirable candidate, it's a process. And within that, cover letters and resumes are items that are used to either let people in or keep them out. So my approach to career work or academic work for that matter is, when you are investing time in doing it, do it well. Because if your product is done well, for one, if it's based on research and self-awareness, then that builds confidence in here. That, yeah, I really am able to do this job because I have these skills, these experiences, these values, and that's how they match with the mission of the company. So that sense of self-knowledge is the thing that nobody can take away from us. Whether you get the interview or not, whether you get the job or not, is secondary. What's primary is being in a place where you can stand in your spirit and say, I have made an argument for why I am a kick-ass candidate. That is confidence that nobody can take away from you. But it takes effort and practice. So philosophically, I'll have students say, oh, this is just a chore, this is boring. Same way, I felt a lot about studying when I was young, and I don't feel that way about studying anymore, because we call it the internal locus of control in the counseling world. When we have to do something, like writing a cover letter and a resume, we switch it back and we talk about how I want to do it. Because I want to do it so that my presentation is the best on paper. I am speaking with knowledge and research and self-awareness. I know about my skills, I know about my values, I know what the job market is, I know what this role requires, and I can create a story about why I will be good at this job. And that is a way of thinking about the cover letter also as interview prep. Because if you are able to sit down and convince yourself, again, genuinely and authentically, without imposter syndrome, if you are able to say to yourself, yeah, I can actually do this role, and if you can present that in writing or in videos or whatever version they're asking for, based on research and based on self-exploration and based on practice with your mentors, then you are preparing yourself for a pretty kick-ass interview, because you know what you have claimed on paper. And then it is your responsibility, it is my responsibility as the candidate to be also able to speak that. But the preparation, I find, really helps people make that shift, and instead of being in that place of, I'm applying for this job, but I'm not really sure about whether I can do it, whether I want to do it, am I the right fit, will I get paid enough? None of that, right? When you are writing the cover letter, write the cover letter as if it is the most important piece of document you will be writing that day or that week. Earlier in my earlier video, I talked about being present. Right? So one of the ways we are present is when we are doing the task, we do the task. When we do it pretty damn well. And part of doing it well also means having the humility to reach out to people, to mentors, to colleagues, and asking for feedback. So due diligence is important. It's never impressive to send a draft where you've half-assed it. So do your work. Don't worry about perfectionism, but do the draft as best as you could have written it. And then reach out to your mentors, to your trusted people, a couple of them, no need to overwhelm yourself, and ask them for feedback. And then take that feedback, look at examples online, right? This generation has this amazing, amazing tool that when I was growing up, we simply didn't have. You can look at examples, again, with boundaries, just 2 or 3 at most. You don't want to spend the next 6 hours reading cover letters and then, getting so upset that you just walk away from the task at hand. You write it, you structure it, you review it with people, you revise it, do the same for the resume, and you send it. And then repeat, right? So the main takeaways here: pay attention to the structure, pay attention to the job description so that your cover letter actually speaks to the job description. Keep in mind that this also helps with ATS compliance. But far more importantly, in the philosophical sense of what makes a good cover letter is one, the ability to use persuasion with facts and emotions to convince your reader that you really are a good candidate for an interview. It builds the confidence, because if your cover letter is well written and you haven't, you're not bullshitting, then you own it. Right? And then that readies you for the interview and also succeeding at the job. So think about the cover letter as a career success tool, that it has multiple applications. One, practical, you have to write it. One is more philosophical, which is you want to write it because it makes you a stronger candidate and a stronger professional. So that's my, more than 2 cents on cover letters. Please leave messages, comments, clarifications, questions. I would love to hear from you. Also, leave comments about other topics that you want to hear on, and to be continued. So go out, kick ass, write, revise, send, repeat. Bye.